Elon's nonstop actions against us are just bad faith tactics to slow down OpenAI and seize control of the leading AI innovations for his personal benefit. Today, we countersued to stop him. I can't believe this is a real tweet. Kind of nuts to have this coming out of the official OpenAI newsroom, but the beef between OpenAI and Elon has always been absurd. I've covered it a bit in the past. We're about to go a lot deeper though, because this one is kind of crazy. Also of note, Grok 3's API just came out like an hour ago, and it almost certainly seems like a retaliatory back and forth going on between them. There's a lot here. I'm going to do my best to cover the history, where we're at, and predict what is next. But since neither OpenAI nor Elon are paying me, in fact, both are probably going to start costing me a hell of a lot of money once I implement their models, someone has to pay the bill for this video. So a quick word from today's sponsor, and then we'll dive right in. Before we get to the blog post, I want to finish reading these tweets because they're insane. He's been spreading false information about us. We're actually getting ready to build the best equipped nonprofit the world has ever seen. We're not converting it away. Elon's never been about the mission. He's always had his own agenda. He's tried to seize control over OpenAI and merge it with Tesla as a for-profit. His own emails prove it. When he didn't get his way, he stormed off. Elon is undoubtedly one of the greatest entrepreneurs of our time, but these antics are just history on repeat. Elon being all about Elon. See his emails here. This is the email history they published back in December, by the way. And this includes back in 2015, OpenAI starting as a nonprofit and Elon questioning it. Probably better to have a state-of-the-art C Corp with a parallel nonprofit. We felt that a nonprofit was the right path at the time, but later came to realize that our structure would have to evolve to attract the capital necessary for our mission. This was the original plan back in November of 2015. Sam emailing to Elon. Plan is to have you, me, and Ilya on the board of directors for YCAI, which will be a Delaware nonprofit. We will also state that we plan to elect 2 other outsiders by a majority vote of the board. We will write into the bylaws that any technology that potentially compromises the safety of humanity has to get consent of the board to be released, and we will reference this in the researchers' employment contracts. At a high level, does this work for you? And he said no. Was cool with the YC support, but doesn't like it being part of YC, and the YCAI name was weird. If you're not familiar, YC is Y Combinator. It is a startup accelerator that I am part of. My company, T3 Tools, mostly known for Ping and T3 Chat, is part of Y Combinator. We went through it back in 2022. And YC also helped kickstart OpenAI because Sam Altman used to run YC and is really involved with them. And they wanted an OpenAI company that then became OpenAI itself. Open Artificial Intelligence Technologies, Inc. This was 9/15/2017 when they actually incorporated in Delaware, which, by the way, everyone incorporates in Delaware because of them being less annoying about taxes and things. Don't read into it. We're just like, I'm incorporated in Delaware. You can't sue your way to AGI. We have great respect for Elon's accomplishments and gratitude for his early contributions to OpenAI, but he should be competing in the marketplace rather than the courtroom. It's critical for the US to remain the global leader in AI. Our mission is to ensure AGI benefits all of humanity, and we have been and will remain a mission-driven organization. We hope Elon shares that goal, and we uphold the values of innovation and free market competition that have driven our success. Here was the first email again. OpenAI gets announced officially as OpenAI in December of 2015. We skip a bit of time, get to early 2017. Our research progress led us to realize we would need billions of dollars for the compute to build AGI. In 2017, we made progress on building an AI for the competitive video game Dota. We discovered we would need far more compute than we initially imagined. In June of 2017, Elon replied to an email saying, okay, let's figure out the least expensive way to ensure compute power is not a constraint. Ilya reiterated in July that each year we'll need to exponentially increase our hardware spend. We have reason to believe AGI can ultimately be built with less than $10 billion of hardware. That did not end up being true at all. Follow-up thoughts from Elon. Surprises me is that the AI community is taking this long to figure out concepts. It doesn't sound super hard. High-level thinking of a large number of deep nets sounds like the right approach, or at least a key part of the right approach. The probability of DeepMind creating a DeepMind increases every year. Maybe it doesn't get past 50% in 2 to 3 years, but it likely moves past 10%. Doesn't sound crazy to me given their resources. In any event, I found that it is far better to overestimate than underestimate competitors. Doesn't mean we should rush out and hire weak talent. I agree that nothing good would be achieved by that. What we do need to do is redouble our efforts to seek the best people in the world, do whatever it takes to bring them on board, and imbue the company with a high sense of urgency. It will be important for OpenAI to achieve something significant in the next 6 to 9 months to show that we are for real. It doesn't need to be a whopper breakthrough, but it should be enough for key talent around the world to sit up and take notice. It's crazy seeing Dota 2 characteristics brought into emails that are this expensive and this important. It's just funny in retrospect seeing Dota 2 as a bullet point in here. We're at a point now where a single experiment consumes thousands of cores, and we're adding more distributed compute increases performance. And here is summer of 2017. We and Elon agreed that a for-profit was the next step for OpenAI to advance the mission. Greg sent Siobhan Zillis, who was operating as a liaison between Elon and OpenAI, and they recapped notes from a meeting with Elon that day, where we proposed an idea to merge with a hardware startup, saying it, quote, turned into talking about the structure. He said nonprofit was definitely the right one early on, may not be the right one now. Ilya and I agree with this for a number of reasons. Ocean agreed on announcing the international. He suggested playing against the best players, winning team seemed cool to me. This is all about Dota 2 still, by the way. And then Cerebras coming up all the way back in 2017. They're still around. That's kind of crazy. This is one of the companies that is doing the chips for cloud and cloud hosting that can spit out insanely fast answers with all these models. Cerebras, Grok with a Q, and Samba Nova are the 3 companies really doing this right now. I like that they made a fake iMessage embed here with HTML for that. Kind of cute. Shows how hard they're taking this all, though. Then Elon forwarded an article about China's plan to match the US in AI by 2020, become the world leader in AI by 2030. This is all still 2017, which is kind of crazy. In August of 2017, our AI beat the world's best players at Dota in a 1v1. That night, Elon told us, time to make the next steps for OpenAI. This is the triggering event. And immediately after, Elon demands majority equity, absolute control, and to be the CEO of the new for-profit. Over the next 6 weeks, we negotiated terms for this for-profit. Elon demanded the majority of the equity. On September 4th of 2017, Siobhan wrote in a message to Greg, and he sounded fairly non-negotiable on his equity being between 50 and 60%, so moot point on having majority. On one call, Elon told us he didn't care about equity personally, but just needed to accumulate 80 billion in order to build a city on Mars. The most Elon thing possible. Oh, God, I can't get over that. And I want to make sure it's clear on the winning with Dota piece. 1v1 is not a real mode in Dota. Defense of the Ancients, Dota 2 specifically, is a 5v5 competitive game with a huge professional scene. It is not the main mode. So even though it beat professionals at Dota, it was beating them in 1v1. The equivalent of this would be like taking 10 of the best competitive programmers in the world and having an AI beat them at building an app. Competitive programmers will be way better than the average person at building an app, but they're different skill sets. They did not win at 5v5. Those saying they did 5v5 as well, you're wrong. They did not win at that. If they did it, I don't even think they did it. Anyways, Elon wanted to make his city on Mars using this money, which is very funny. These aren't texts between Elon and OpenAI. This is OpenAI and the liaison that was talking to Elon. I'm still slightly confused on the proposed detail around the share percent and board control, given it sounds like the proposal is that Elon always gets max 3 seats, 25% of seats, and all the power rests with the board. Yes, though I'm guessing he intended your overrule provision for first bit, but I'm not sure. So what power does he having a certain percent of shares have? Sounds like the intention is static board members, or at least board members coming statically from certain pools. But yeah, would be curious to hear the specifics. Also, I guess for even board size, a 50% means no action. Think the board would grow to 7 people pretty quick. The question isn't that, but when does it transition to traditional board if in fact it does transition? Sounds fairly non-negotiable on his equity being between 50 and 60%, so moot point on having majority. Yep. Between Greg and Siobhan, who was the liaison. Elon laid out a board structure where he would unequivocally have initial control of the company. Reminder, Elon is just on the board. He's not actually actively running the company. Even talking to him is done through somebody. He's not involved day to day. He wants to come in and take over. And he has done this before, like he did with Tesla. The 3 common stock seats, you, Greg, and Sam, should be elected by common shareholders. They will de facto be yours, but not in the unlikely event that you lose the faith of a huge percentage of common stockholders over time or step away from the company by choice. I think that the preferred A investment round, supermajority me, should have the right to appoint 4, not 3 seats. I would not expect to appoint them immediately, but like I said, I would unequivocally have initial control of the company, but that would change quickly. The rough target would be to get 12 people on the board, probably more like 16 if the board really ends up deciding the fate of the world, where each board member has a deep understanding of technology, at least a basic understanding of AI, and strong and sensible morals. Apart from the Series A, 4, and Common 3, there would likely be a board member with each new lead investor and ally. However, specific individual board members can only be added if all but one existing board member agrees. Same for removing board members. There will also be independent board members that we want to add who aren't associated with an investor. Same rules apply here. Requires all but one of existing directors to add or remove. I'm super tired and don't want to overcomplicate things. Yeah, sure. But this seems approximately right. At the 16-person board level, we would have 7/16 votes, and I'd have 25% of the influence, which is my minimum comfort level. This sounds all about right to me. If everybody else we ask to join on the board is truly against us, we probably should lose. As mentioned, my experience with boards, assuming they consist of good, smart people, is that they are rational and reasonable. Very funny when you know the drama with the board at OpenAI that we went through a year and a half ago now. Insane. Timeline's fast. There's basically never a real hardcore battle where an individual board vote is pivotal. So this is almost certainly, sure hope so, going to be a moot point. As a closing note, I've been really impressed with the quality of discussion with you guys on the equity and board stuff. Have a good feeling about this. Let me know if the above seems reasonable. Elon also told us that he would need to be CEO. Very interesting. Elon then, after this, has a new company formed called the Open Artificial Intelligent Technologies, Inc., similar to SpaceX's official name, which is Space Exploration Technologies Corporation. This was registered in September. And then, soon after, Sam and Greg reject Elon's terms because they don't want to give him unilateral control of OpenAI. We came close to accepting Elon's terms. As we told him, we really want to work with you. We believe that if we join forces, our chance for success in this mission is the greatest. Saying the current structure provides you with a path where you end up with unilateral absolute control over the AGI. You stated that you didn't want to control the final AGI, but during this negotiation, you've shown to us that absolute control is extremely important to you. As we told Elon, the goal of OpenAI is to make the future good and to avoid an AGI dictatorship. We concluded, thus we are concerned that as the company makes genuine progress towards AGI, you will choose to retain your absolute control of the company despite current intent to the contrary. And this is from Ilya. This process has been the highest stakes conversation that Greg and I have ever participated in. And if this project succeeds, it'll turn out to be one of the highest stakes conversations the world has ever seen. It's also been a deeply personal conversation for all of us. Yesterday, while we were considering making our final commitment, even the non-solicited agreement, we realized that we made a mistake. We have several important concerns that we haven't raised with either of you. We didn't raise them because we were afraid to. We were afraid of harming the relationship, having you think less of us, or losing you as partners. There is some chance that our concerns will prove to be unreasonable. We really hope it's not the case. But we know we will fail for sure if we don't all discuss them now. We have hope that we can work through them all and continue working together. This is the part where they say they really want to work with Elon and that it will increase the chances of success. Here's the part where they say that if we succeed with this, you would have full control and no one would want to give that up. We have a few smaller concerns, but we think it's useful to mention them here. In the event that we decide to buy Cerebras, my strong sense is that it'll be done through Tesla. But why do it this way if we could also do it from within OpenAI? Specifically, the concern is that Tesla has a duty to shareholders to maximize shareholder return, which is not aligned with OpenAI's mission. So the overall result may not end up being optimal for OpenAI. We believe that OpenAI, the nonprofit, was successful because both you and Sam were in it. Sam acted as a genuine counterbalance to you, which has been extremely fruitful. Greg and I, at least so far, are much worse at being counterbalances to you. We feel this is evidenced even by this negotiation, where we were ready to sweep the long-term AGI control questions under the rug while Sam stood his ground. And to Sam, when Greg and I are stuck, you've always had an answer that turned out to be deep and correct. You've been thinking about the ways forward on this problem extremely deeply and thoroughly. Greg and I understand technical execution, but we don't know how structured decisions will play out over the next months, years, or 5 years. But we haven't been able to fully trust your judgments throughout this process because we don't understand your cost function. We don't understand why the CEO title is so important to you. Your stated reasons have changed, and it's hard to really understand what's driving it. And the second point, is AGI truly your primary motivation? How does it connect to your political goals? How has your thought process changed over time? This is the Greg and Ilya section. We've had a fair share of our own failings during this negotiation, and we'll list some of them here. For Elon and Sam, I'm sure you'll have plenty to add. During this negotiation, we realized that we've allowed the idea of financial return 2 to 3 years down the line to drive our decisions. This is why we didn't push on the control. We thought that our equity is good enough, so why worry? That attitude is wrong, just like the attitude of AI experts who don't think that AI safety is an issue because they don't really believe that they'll build AGI. We did not speak our full truth during the negotiation. We have our excuses, but it was damaging to the process and we may lose both Sam and Elon as a result. That's enough baggage here, but I think it's very important for us to meet and talk it out. Our collaboration will not succeed if we don't. Can all four of us meet today? If all of us say the truth and resolve this issue, the company that we'll create will be much more likely to withstand the very strong forces it's going to experience. This email came first. At 2:08 p.m., Elon replied less than 10 minutes later saying that he's had enough, we're not doing it, and then said that to be clear, it's not an ultimatum. Then Sam replied that he remains enthusiastic. January comes after negotiations broke down. Elon proposed that we spin into Tesla. We would have had $1 billion budget right away and it would increase exponentially from there. But our team did not want to work at Tesla. We spent the next months trying to find another way to raise the capital required to achieve the mission. This is a funny quote in retrospect that Elon told OpenAI in 2018 that they were on a path of certain failure relative to Google. There obviously needs to be immediate and dramatic action or everyone except Google will be consigned to irrelevance. My view is that the best future will come from major expansion of OpenAI. Our goal and mission is fundamentally correct, and that will increasingly be a superpower as AGI grows near. And then February comes and Elon resigns as co-chair. This is the point where he is officially left. End of the year, 11 months later, they sent Elon an update about their progress and told him about a deal to move our computing from Google to Microsoft, in addition to our own data sensors. We also offered to talk about longer-term fundraising plans. He responds, sounds good. Are all their plans. December 26th, Elon sends an email right after Christmas saying, even raising several hundred million won't be enough. This needs billions per year immediately or forget it. My probability assessment of OpenAI being relevant to DeepMind and Google without a dramatic change in execution and resources is 0%, not 1%. I wish it were otherwise. He really didn't think anyone could win other than Google. I'm almost positive Redacted here is going to be a Google employee. OpenAI reminds me of Bezos and Blue Origin. They're hopelessly behind SpaceX and getting worse. But the ego of Bezos has him insanely thinking that they are not. I really hope I'm wrong. I think this is the point where Elon had made his decision about how he felt about these things. Public announcement of the capped profit OpenAI LP in March 2019 happened. Elon's only feedback was, please be explicit, I have no financial interest in the for-profit arm of OpenAI. We offered him equity in the OpenAI LP, which he declined. Mind you, he helped fund a lot of OpenAI stuff, and this would have been a way to convert his funding into actual stock so we could get a profit from it, and he declined. Offered him, and he was declined at the time. I don't recall what the actual path was. We offered you equity when we established the cap profit, which you didn't want at the time, but are still very happy to do if you'd like. We saw no alternative to a structure change given the amount of capital we needed and still to preserve a way to give the AGI to humanity other than the cap profit thing, which also lets the board cancel all equity if needed for safety. For what it's worth, I personally have no equity and never have. I'm trying to navigate tricky tightropes the best I can, and I would love to talk about how it can be done better anytime that you're free. This was between Sam Altman and Siobhan. More proof that Sam doesn't have equity in the company. He doesn't want his ownership and money to dictate the future of AGI. Generally good. And this was in 2019. Nothing happens until 2023, where Elon starts his OpenAI competitor, xAI. And then right after, he signed an open letter calling for a pause in training systems more powerful than GPT-4. Since only OpenAI had a GPT-4 level system, it was a call for OpenAI to stop development so everyone else could catch up. And now Grok 3 is terrible as I think it is in a lot of things, is roughly as good as 4.0, better in some ways, so he fully broke that letter he signed. Very interesting history, and I think it's important to understand the depth of this disagreement between the two. OpenAI's goal was historically to make sure AGI wasn't owned by one company. Elon liked that idea, but then once he decided he wanted to have the money for the whole Mars thing, it seems like his mental model for all of this started to fall apart, and he started throwing tons of pot shots because he has to be fair, like a bunch of inside info, and in some ways was wronged. And he wasn't wrong because OpenAI screwed up. He was wrong because the board didn't do the things he wanted, even though he was part of it. And that disagreement between him and the rest of the board led to him exiting. And again, he thought there was a 0% chance of OpenAI succeeding. I think this is why he bailed. And now he feels regret and is, instead of just catching up, is fighting them optically. Because personally, like imagine dropping this bag. Imagine being this certain OpenAI would fail and being as wrong as he was. It makes sense he went kind of insane after. I get it. I will say personally, reading this bit here about the OpenAI new best equipped nonprofit, it doesn't seem to be about AGI for all, rather donating a lot of money to use AI for good. I don't even think AGI appears on this page. Just imagine and encouraging. Yeah, AGI doesn't appear on this page at all, which was always the point of the OpenAI like nonprofit, to make sure AGI isn't owned by one company or business or person. This isn't that. That's not what this nonprofit is. That's the only part here I don't really side with OpenAI as hard with. This is interesting. Yeah, this is wild. The whole history is nuts. The crazy shaking up of the board throughout is nuts. Elon's behavior and weird comments nonstop about OpenAI have been kind of nuts. Here's a funny one. This is when OpenAI announced the Stargate project with the US government to do the massive infrastructure in the US. Elon replies, they don't actually have the money. To which Sam replies, I genuinely respect your accomplishments and think you are the most inspiring entrepreneur of our time. I like the angle Sam has with a lot of this, that he's trying to good faith respect Elon for what he has done while he is tweeting OpenAI is evil. SoftBank has under 10 billion secured. I have that on good authority. This is interesting. Yeah, he thinks that SoftBank can't actually fund OpenAI. Sam says this is wrong. Want to come visit the first site already underway? This is great for the country. I realize what is great for the country isn't always what's optimal for your companies, but in your new role, I hope you'll mostly put America first. What a fucking banger reply on Sam's part. In most of the things Elon's talked about with most of these types of people in the past, he could just be wrong, so to speak, like this, and it was fine. Now he can't because the stakes are so much higher, and we're seeing some questionable things being said as a result. I understand why the lawsuit is happening. It's basically the only way to force him to shut his mouth when he's refusing to talk. As you saw in those tweets there with Sam, he just never replied to Sam. He replies to the announcement, to the news, spreads some bullshit, gets destroyed in the replies, and then doesn't say anything at all about it from there. It's sad. It's kind of crazy that he is so willing to just lie and then not acknowledge the reality. I'm not a big fan of suing somebody for their speech, but yeah, when you're lying this profusely and using a platform that you purchased to elevate your competing product and just getting away with it, I think this is overdue. Elon obviously helped with the starting of OpenAI, but his failure to take control early on is something he has now flipped as a reason to punish the company. And it makes sense they're fighting back, especially now that they have significantly more money. Yeah. Good luck to OpenAI in this lawsuit. I am almost certainly on your side with this one. It sucks that we can't talk about the things that I don't agree with that you're doing because we're so focused on these things that aren't real. I still largely believe that OpenAI is trying to execute on their mission. And I still think there aren't many companies that would be better to have this far along, so to speak, in development of AI tech. This is a weird one. I am very curious how you guys feel about this video. Let me know in the comments. And until next time, peace, nerds.